Alright, so, where should I go? I need to go there, there's someone thing there, and there's also an event here, I think? Yeah, there's an event over there. Rings of White Forge. Check that. Check what's there.
Frozen. All. Only the banner moves. Blown by the wind.
Downright poetic. Prime material for a ballad. Perhaps even a whole saga.
Whole saga? Whole saga of ballads? That would be kind of cool.
Gazing towards the horizon, Neve noticed a dark shape outlined against the mantle of snow that lay on the ground. It proved a tower, toppled and broken in pieces. Around it lay the ruins of other buildings, blocks hewn out of basalt rock protruding from the permafrost.
That'd be the Clan Vidmar ruins,
said Gabor, hollering over the wind.
Rich ones had their clan seat here till earth tremors turned all into dust. Hundreds of dwarves lived here once, and now, not a living soul.
Ah! Help! Save me!
On the contrary, there was someone midst the ruins, and said someone was clearly in trouble. Neve ordered her men to find the unfortunate soul. They returned moments later, leading a dwarf whose teeth chattered. They had found him in a ruined building where he'd sought shelter from ghouls. Judging by his appearance, the dwarf had spent the better part of a week there.
Marco Vidmar, they call me.
He said, patting down unkempt hair that seemed to reach in all directions.
I came here seeking a family heirloom, lost in the tremors and the chaos they caused. I ken the chamber where it ought to be, but, well, beasts made their lair there. I cannot drive them off on my own. But bold warriors like yous ought to cut them down in a jiffy. So, will you help?
I too have lost my home, estate,
Said the Queen.
so I understand well what you feel. I shall help you recover your heirloom. Call it a win.
Mirko Vidmar's face lit up. Though he'd spent a week besieged and eating stale biscuits, and though there was a hoarfrost in his beard, he quickly trotted to the front of the column and led the Lyrian soldiers to the underground chamber. As promised, beasts awaited there.
Let's get those beasts.
From there they come. Drive them back!
You mad? Don't shake that! This could hurt.
stone knock out one of your teeth.
A knight should help. Our codex commands it.
Let's get a move on before any others show up.
As soon as the fight was done, Mirko Vidmar ran towards a crate that stood on a pedestal, slipping on the now bloody floor. When the dwarf lifted the lid, precious stones spilled out.
Your heirloom? This?
Asked the Queen, rather puzzled.
I thought a pipe that belonged to your grandfather more likely.
Seems to me Brother Mirko wasn't wholly candid with us. This here's no heirloom, no family souvenir. It's the treasure trove of Clan Vidmar. We thought it gone for good.
Pressed for the truth, Mirko admitted no family sentiment had prompted this expedition. The dwarf had planned to leave Mahakam and start a new life among humans. Yet he did not wish to do so without sizable capital.
I can't stand to stay here a moment longer. The days, all of them, they're identical. Rise with the first cockscrow, march in double file to the latrine, crap on command, 12 hours down the shaft and home to sleep.
Mirko complained.
Want a wifey? Put in an application. In triplicate. Care to snip your beard? Elders got to approve it. You want to add buttermilk, not cream, to your mushroom soup? Clan council's got to debate it. How's a dwarf not to get balmy?
I understand the lad, no two ways about it.
Gabor sighed.
But I feel it's my duty to remind yous that what Mirko's going and doing here, well, there are laws. Treasure's due the Elder-in-Chief, not to Mirko, that's one. Second, any dwarf that wants to leave Mahakam can't take nothing but his breeches, his dixie, and his coat. So, brief like, consider well afore you make your decision, Your Grace.
I don't know what to choose. I don't know if I should return the treasure or just let Mirko take it. Come on! Return, or should I let Mirko?
I sympathize, Mirko,
said Neve.
but I'm a crowned head. I must decline. National interest requires I show the greatest possible care for my relations with Elder-in-Chief Hugh. Yet in aiding you, I could sour those greatly. I shall return the treasure to him, I must. While you do what you will.
Mirko Vidmar swore under his breath, then jostled his way through the Lyrian infantry and into the mountains, towards human lands.
Sorry, Mirko. Sorry. I just couldn't... I couldn't break the law as queen. Jeez.
The Lyrians rode a narrow, winding path along the rocky ridge. To one side were ice-covered boulders, to the other, a chasm hundreds of feet deep.
They could have at least erected some barriers.
Complained Gascon, knocking snow from his cap.
Got plans for that.
Gabor said.
Just need to decide how high to make them.
What?
Think. Should they be the height of your average dwarf or a human? The debate's gone on for 20 years. On the one hand, you've got...
Gabor did not finish his discussion. He was interrupted by the Baba Ghazi that jumped down from the rocks.
Hard chance! Shoot! Aim for underbelly!
Neve's soldiers made quick work of the lone monster. But the sound of battle spooked the horses harnessed to one of her wagons.
Whoa there! Whoa, damn it!
The driver tried to rein in the animals, but could not. They dragged him into the chasm along with his cart and the soldiers riding it. They landed a few dozen feet below on a rocky outcropping. A moment later, Baba Ghazis swarmed everywhere.
Did you see how they fared? Anyone left alive?
Asked Meve, leaning over the cliff edge.
Worry more about their cargo.
Gascon replied.
They were also carrying chests of gold.
Blast. We can't get down there. Too steep and the snow keeps falling.
We can lower ourselves down a line. But without armor, shields, or heavy weapons, otherwise it will snap.
And the Baba Ghazis?
The Queen said, brow raised.
We shan't kill them with daggers. They're too thick of armor.
We'll have to try. Or continue on our way.
You only live once.
Meve sighed.
Gascon, round up some volunteers and let us move out.
Moments later, the...
Careful! No one try to be a hero!
Watch your heads! Hey?
Interesting.
Bereft of sword and shield, Meve could not withstand a single blow. She thus danced atop the frozen snow, deftly dodging the Barbegazi's lightning-fast strikes, while delivering but a few well-aimed hits of her own, to their eyes, ears, and gaping jaws. When the last monster fell lifeless to the ground, Meve walked up to the shattered wagon. The soldiers it had carried were bruised, frostbitten, but alive.
Your Grace, we were sure you'd leave us.
A good ruler never abandons her folk.
Nor her gold.
Gascon interjected, while securing a rope to a chest. Soon enough, all were safely back on the path. The admiration Meve saw in her soldiers' eyes was in itself sufficient reward for her difficult battle.
Destroy the solar resistance hero Garth Rock. Units whose armor is reduced to 0 are destroyed. Go return draw a card, okay.
Scurvy sketches!
Welcome to me inn, with many...
fresh snow today. Got a blow before too long, bring a rush down. Oh, God. Braving the snow in those meagre courts, are ye? Truly.
We're doing good. The snow won't stop us. Oh, there's a monster here. There's a quest over here. Another quest here, here, and here. So there's a bunch of quests here to do. Battle here. Okay. What's happening over here? Is that a Kikimora? That is a Kikimora. Is it? Oh yeah. Let's get all those stuff here. This, and that. The Workers' Commission determined that nasty stench floating around the Crag Pass gold mine is not in fact a fart. It's not a fart, but it's caused by methane fumes, and as a result, please heed the following. Do not enter the mine until the stench is cleared under no circumstances. Do not come within 30 paces of the mine's entrance with a flame. Apologize to Volta for any inconvenience you've caused her. Hoo ha ha! It's not a fart. It's methane gas. Okay, interesting. So we need to go check over here. Dear son, if you have opened the family tomb, it can only mean your father's has passed, and now rests in peace beside me. Please do not grieve, for this is the new way of life. Always has been, always will be. You're the head of this family, and it won't be easy to undertake your fret. Right. This is on the summit. Okay, so this was easy to find. That treasure is going to be easy to find. It's right on the summit of the mountain. Hello.
Meve now witnessed a
Meve now
sorry
witnessed
sight.
a sorry
A
sight.
mass funeral for miners.
A mass
killed due to
funeral
a
for
tragic
miners killed due
convergence
to
of
the tragic
events.
convergence of events.
Their lead caskets
Their
lay upon
lead
the snow,
caskets lay
reeds of
upon the
hop
snow.
cones
Okay.
laid upon them in turn. The mourners waited for the diggers to finish. The digging was tough, for the ground was frozen. As the crunch and thud of picks and shovels continued, the dead miner's foreman scrambled onto a boulder to make a speech. Angry shouts and loud booing stopped him.
You knew it! You knew they'd smelled vapours, but you ordered them to keep digging till it blew up in their faces!
Meet the daily quota, whatever the cost, eh?
You've blood on your mitts, whore son!
A mourner then picked up a chunk of frozen ground and threw it at the foreman. Blood spurted from the gash that appeared on his forehead. The first dirt chunk was followed by another, then by a rock, a brick. Meve realized that if she did not intervene, the foreman stood to be stoned to death. Something had to be done quickly. Neve saw this clearly. She spurred her mount and rode into the cemetery, pushing through the throng, then stopping before the foreman, the horse shielding him from further blows.
Calm yourselves! Kino Kren!
Isbel cried out. Her hands began to radiate a fierce light that blinded both dwarves and Lyrians alike.
Have you lost your minds, all of you together? Not had your fill of misfortune yet? Lower your arms at once.
Whether the power of Isbel's magic or the force of her appeal had the greater effect is difficult to say for certain. Either way, both sides suddenly lost the desire to fight. Neve breathed a sigh of relief, aware that if not for Isbel's intervention, a great amount of blood would have been spilled at that cemetery.
Knew there'd be a stink cause of this. Well, we may have gotten a wee bit carried away. 'Tis good you broke. Well, we may have knew.
Good thing we had Isbel in the party, or else it might have been a massacre. Oh shit. Good thing we have Isabel in our party. That was good. Good thing we had Isabel, or else we would have had a massacre. Holy shit.
Have it the white of an eye from half a league away.
We got a job to do.
Bigger they are, easier they are to target.
So much anger and suffering. For what?
You must sweat like a swine in that jacket.
Thing about slings, they hide well.
Oh, could murder a pint.
Hey?
Prepare to fight, if you've any honor.
Ha!
Ever have a storm knock out one of your teeth?
I fear not, for faith guides me.
Valyrians ascended the highest section of the Mahakam range. Snow crunched under their boots, cold air stung their lungs, and the wind snapped at their cloaks. Meve wiped sweat from her brow and turned to Reynard.
There! By the rocks! We shall...
The rest of her words were drowned out by a powerful blast. The entire mountain rumbled with a low, vibrating roar. The sound grew louder, echoing off the rocks, splitting their ears. The Valyrians looked around, disoriented. Few heard Gabor's warning.
Dinna just stand there! Get behind the rock! Quick! Hurry!
Meve followed the dwarf's gaze and cried out in terror. The snow stuck to the mountainside had started to slide down the slope, sending up mists of icy dust. Before she could react, the white torrent knocked her to her knees, crushing her and smothering her into the ground. All she felt after that was all-encompassing cold and fear. Meve survived. The dwarves who ran to the Valyrians' rescue dug her out of the snow in time. Some of her soldiers were not so lucky. The Queen looked at their bodies, blue, frozen. Next to them lay dead horses, demolished wagons. The losses were enormous. Meve wiped her cheek. Her tears burned her frozen skin. Gabor spoke a while with the leader of the Mahakam guard patrol that had come to their rescue. His face was dour.
What? What have you learned?
I tell you all in good time. First, you need a warm drink, good victuals.
No, Gabor. I need to find out what in blazes happened here.
Well, it was an avalanche.
Of course it was an avalanche. I'm no fool. But what caused it? What was that noise?
Signal horns. Ours.
So you brought this snow down on us? Dwarves!
Well, aye, but, unawares.
Explain, in brief.
See, we clean our mount regularly. The way menfolk shovel snow off their roofs. Otherwise, the whole shebang would come tumbling down on our heads. When snow's gathered deep enough, we blast our horns to cause a controlled avalanche. Then we need to, sweep up a wee bit and the road's safe.
All well and good, but why did you decide to clean up right as I was passing through?
Wondering that myself. Schedule says next cleaning should have been a week from now. But someone asked the route to be cleared earlier.
Who?
Maeve, I'll tell you. But first, promise you'll...
Who?
Hey. Owain ep Glenvog, the Nilfgaardian emissary.
That explains it.
Must have found out you'd be going through.
The bastard. Reynard! Reynard!
Wait! Wait! I understand you're a wee bit upset, you've every right. But you'll never prove Owain meant you harm. The sly weasel will make sure he didn't dirty his own paws.
I've no such scruples. I'll find him and kill him.
And then? How'd you tell that tale to Bruva? Meave, you're justly torqued, but for the love, just this once, let it go. Or you'll leave Mahakam with near a scrap to show for it.
Moments later, scouts reported Owain was camped to the north of the accident site. Meave had to decide how much she was willing to risk to get her revenge on the Imperial emissary.
Okay.
By the Elder's sideburns, I'd no notion anyone was in the Vale.
There, milady, whispered one of the scouts.
Left of the path.
Meave squinted. The Nilfgaardians had taken shelter from the falling snow under a rocky outcropping. Meave's gaze caught something else.
Meave! Asking you last time, keep a cool head,
whispered Gabor.
You want vengeance? I get it. But think of the cost.
No.
Said the Queen after long deliberation.
But, milady,
I know what they did, and that I shall never forget nor forgive.
Said Meave, placing a hand on her scout's shoulder.
But breaking Dwarven law only plays into the Nilfgaardians' hand, causing us to lose allies and our chance for victory.
Meave brushed the snow from her trousers and straightened her spine.
Avenge our comrades we shall. Not here, but in the fields of Lyria and Rivia.
The Lyrians resumed their march with heavy, beleaguered steps. Their path still piled high with the snow brought down by the Nilfgaardians. While passing the mining settlement of Kolstock, Meave heard the sounds of battle.
hey-ho! Into the fray, lads!
Expecting she would see monsters swarming dwarves, the Queen set off at a gallop to the rescue. Her braid blew about in the wind like a banner, showing her men in which direction to attack. The dwarves she saw, however, were not engaged in a battle against Shaelmars and Barbagazis. No. They were going at one another. Luckily, no weapons had yet been drawn, but given that dwarves have hands the size of bread loaves, this did not necessarily mean there would be no deaths.
Oi, lads!
Roared Gabor Zigrin.
What's this foolishness? Calm the hell down, damn it!
Gabor's intervention proved successful. The dwarves limited themselves to verbal jousting. Meave, who was no stranger to barrack room talk, nonetheless turned crimson at the dwarves' cursing. Piecing together the obscenities, Meave concluded they were debating an old quarrel about the height of a certain mountain, or rather of the twin peaks atop it. One of them lay in the territory of Clan Dahlberg, while the other in the Hoogsland. Each family felt their peak was the highest, all measurements indicating the contrary being total fabrications.
Queen?
Started Gabor, nervously chewing his moustache.
They're asking if you as yin impartial and a fair-minded wench to boot, wouldn't he wish to settle their Egypt squabble once and for all?
Meve knew well that this type of age-old quarrel could easily end in bloodshed, so she resolved to help. Representatives of the two clans gave her a strange mechanism she was to use to measure elevation. All that was left was for the Queen to button her coat up to the neck and scale the Twin Peaks.
Time to end this delicate feud, once and for all. Time to end this delicate feud.
When she and her force had traveled half the way to the first, she heard a long roar that made snow shelves detach and descend. Without waiting for her scouts to return with reports, Meve drew her sword.
Ease up, lads! They're flying straight for us!
Catch!
We'll catch 'em all!
Bigger they are, easier they are to target.
Cork it.
Thing about slings, they hide well.
There's been a mistake. I'm no mage.
You sure about that?
Take those measurements and let's be gone from this place.
The Lyrians managed to repel the monsters and reach both peaks. Upon each, Meve ordered her men to take the measurements. While waiting, she admired the breathtaking view of the Mahakam Massif. The dwarven contraption left no room for doubt. The peak within the Dahlberg clan territory was 2 feet higher than that within Hoog territory. Gabor was clearly displeased with the results.
Damn it all! I'd hoped you'd prove Brewer's clan was in the right. He'd have been content to see the Dahlbergs knocked down a peg or two, and, possibly, he'd have been more inclined to help you,
said the dwarf in frustration. Then, after a pause, he added,
Although, only you saw what the device showed, Queen. Perhaps you could, recalibrate the results a wee bit?
'Tis most lowly and ignoble.
Ake cried out in protest.
A knight his honor would never stain with such a lie.
To lie would be simple, true.
Said Meve.
Yet to forget the matter would be so much harder. No, Gabor, I shall tell the truth.
The Queen's tone made it clear the discussion was over. Gabor let the matter lie, and Meve's force began its descent down the mountainside. The dwarves of both clans had been waiting with bated breath for the expedition's return and report. As soon as Meve announced the results, the Dahlbergs rolled barrels of beer out into the square and began to celebrate. Naturally, the Hoogs were disappointed, yet they accepted Meve's results as final. At last, they had come to trust her.
Dahlbergs are the dwarfs we need! Every Hoogs are dunder! Dahlberg!
For frostbite, you'd best avail yourself of some onions. Even there, if you had a wee nip of vodka. Oh!
As Meve neared Langbridge, she ordered her bugler to announce her arrival, then retired to her tent to freshen up. Gascon was already inside, awaiting her.
I do not seem to recall summoning you.
In that case, I must tell you to fret not. Nothing wrong with your memory. I've come with no agenda. Spontaneously, call it, to chat.
Then I propose you leave. Just as spontaneously, call it. I must don fresh clothes. I'm to see the Elder soon, and I'd prefer to not smell of horse sweat.
Doubt it'd make much difference to him. And be assured, I know what I speak of. When last we met, I found myself standing downwind of him. A pungent experience.
Well, Hugh saved the experience of his breath. So pungent I thought I might faint.
Well, to revive you, pinch you awake, I'm sure would be quite a pleasure.
Gascon, I beg your pardon. Oh, I shall have nightmares now.
Not tonight. For I fear you might not sleep at all. You see, there's something you ought to know. And decidedly before you meet with Bruver. The sites we cleared of beasts, I ferreted a bit. Noted something peculiar. Any notion what it was?
None. The monumental dwarven architecture, perhaps?
Bones, my dear Meave. Dwarven bones. Now, guess what I found on them?
Wait, don't dare give me any hints. Bite marks.
Of course. After all, they'd been gnawed clean of all flesh by monsters, incidentally making it quite easy to spot other markings. Ones made by axes and swords. To be certain, I showed the bones to our medics, and they confirmed my conclusion.
Meaning what? That the entire clan, the Fuchses,
did not perish due to an invasion of beasts from the depths. The monsters merely ate the bodies and occupied empty homes. Now, I shared my discovery with Gabor, and guess what he did? He panicked. He started to squirm, babble nonsense. I wager my right arm, he's hiding something.
Blast. Overly eager to aid us from the start he was. I might have sent something. I shall have him summoned at once. And I thank you, Gascon. I won't forget this.
Minutes later, Gabor stood before the Queen. At first, he tried to mislead her with evasive answers, but as her pointed questions demolished one clumsy excuse after another, he had to give in.
Hoy. As King Desmond said after a hefty squirt in his hose, we can't sweep this under the rug.
If you think I welcome jests in this moment, you err. My fingers itch to summon the hangman.
Right. So. 'Tis true. I misled you. On our clan elder's orders. Supposed to make sure you destroyed Burr's Rump and Davor's Abyss thoroughly enough to leave nae a trace.
What? Why? What did they wish to hide?
They was home to the Fuchses, our mortal enemies. They'd been a-boiling our heinies for ages, thumbing their noses, taking what they want when they want, and the Elder-in-Chief didn't gie a ploughing whit. So to stop them, our clan, we did the unpardonable. The Ziggurin elders saw their chance and they...
Gods. So you were responsible for the deaths of all those dwarves?
Me? I didn't raise a finger. Tried to stop them, in fact.
No witnesses survived, meaning you must have murdered the entire clan. How?
Queen, you sure you...
I am. And you should be sure to answer in full, omitting no detail.
A few years back, we got pummeled by a horrendous winter. Stone-breaking frosts, whiteout storms, avalanches. Made travelling a painful form of suicide. Hunger drove beasts out of their dens. Pass was covered in the filth. Got to where they paced right outside the walls. Fuchses fought a hard, bloody fight to keep the critters out of Davor's Abyss. Lost near every axe-wielding dwarf they had. Only survivors had to winter at Burr's Rump. our elders felt such an opportunity wouldn't knock again. After killing the town's meagre guard, they set fire to it and barricaded the gates. They didn't stand a chance.
Bastards. How in the world did the truth go undiscovered?
Once it were over, our dwarves opened the gates. Before they'd lit their pipes, starving beasts came crawling out of the pass. The stank of dead flesh were strong. Zigrins who came back from that never were the same. If you'd only gandered their gaze when they had us all take a vow of silence. And then...
You invented that blarney about primeval monstrosities the Fuchses had awoken by mining too deep. A riveting tale, and one with a moral to boot.
Aye. But the elders worried Bruver would suspect something all the same. That's why they wanted you to destroy all the evidence.
Repugnant. You claim not to have taken part, but neither did you do anything to stop the massacre.
What was it to do exactly? The elders had decided. Nae a dwarf would listen to me.
You might have informed the Elder-in-Chief. The guilty would have been punished.
The guilty? You didn't ken Bruver. He'd punish the whole clan. Women, children, nae exceptions. Maeve, Queen, I'm begging you. He canna ever learn of this. Aye, I want a hack flame too when I think what the Elder's done. But t'other way it'd bring but more pain and death.
I need to consider what's right. Meanwhile, Gascon, make sure Gabor remains our guest.
Of course. I'll let you know if he so much as rolls his eyes towards an escape route.
Once we're neath Carp, lo!
Let's go see Bruver.
Bruver stood by the bridge like a statue, arms crossed, eyes squinting. Maeve sighed inside. She stood little chance of having a pleasant chat.
Elder-in-Chief, sir.
No shouting and praising here, lass. Ploughing humans. Always out to fix things, always end up cocking them up. You think you're due glory, do you? Monster Slayer Maeve? Patroness of dwarves? Blast it. What do you think? Why didn't I exterminate those beasts myself, eh? Go on, tell me!
For you.
For I didn't want to. For something didn't fit, damn it. So I resolved to not destroy their nests and evidence till I learned the truth of who done it.
Postponed it all those years expressly. Though your subjects were dying.
I didn't need no lectures from the likes of you. Justice must be served. That's worth any price. And I was close. Had leads. And now, it's all gone to hell. You flooded Devor's abyss. You brought Boros rump down on itself. And I'll never ken who killed the Fuchses. Understand? Never!
I would not be so sure.
Sure a bloody what?
That you shall never learn the truth. For I learnt it just moments ago. 'Twas the Zigrins who killed the Fuchses.
The Sigrins? But, oh Lord. Aye, would explain a lot, that. Ah, the snakes, worms, rogues! Why, I'll show 'em. All right. Got to admit you've more in that pretty heat of yours than I expected, but dinna you start thinking we'll be toasting a new friendship. You want our aid? You'll have to answer our questions. My questions. Lots of them. And they're all hard, so dinna you go smiling at me yet.
Why, I wouldn't dare.
Better not. Right. Time we moved on.
Bruver set off at a brisk pace, paying Meve nor anyone else heed. The Elder's bodyguards rushed after him, then came the Lyrian force, and at its end trudged Gabor Zigrin, hands and feet in shackles.
Oh well, also a good card. Which card can I replace though?
One.
Dwarves demonstrate innovative thinking in many domains. Metallurgy, engineering, architecture. Yet there is one in which they could not be bothered. Naming. For this reason, the bridge that linked the Mahakam Pass with Mount Carbon was simply named Langbridge. Meve learned it was a thoroughly fitting name. Having stopped for a breath halfway across the road suspended over a deep chasm, The Queen could see neither end of the bridge, both concealed by thick clouds.
Amazing.
Whispered the Queen.
I feel as though we traversed the very sky.
The Queen and her retinue were nearing Mount Carbon when Meve heard a cry. It was Xavier.
Hold! Hold!
Meve drew in her reins abruptly. Her mare neighed and reared, lifting the Queen above her formation of men. From that height, she saw the last pier of the bridge crumbling. The dwarves at the head of the procession were unable to stop in time and plummeted, screaming into the abyss.
What's the meaning of this, God damn it?
Gruver roared.
Fetch the engineers! Now!
The Queen was striving to calm her spooked mount when she sensed something swish past her ear. Out of nowhere, a Scoia'tael band had appeared at the rear of the column. Before anyone could react, elven archers had felled the rear guard. The soldiers lay on the bridge's stone surface with arrows in their backs. Meve was trapped. In one direction lay the chasm, in the other, a fierce foe. She had no choice but to stand and fight.
You are mine!
We trapped your Grace, but we can try and fight our way through.
Nay, Duan fe camest. Show me the coin or sod off.
You ballbags can do whatever the devils you please! This is Mahakam!
Swords I smile at, weapons laugh to scorn.
Have it the white of an eye from half a league away.
Ha!
I was hoping you'd say that.
You must sweat like a swine in that jacket.
I shall not fail!
God's blast it! My breast chafes.
Got business for me?
What you looking at?
Brian!
Bigger they are, easier they are to target.
No! Let her in her! She must die!
Their strength combined, the Lyrians and dwarves managed to defeat the Scoia'tael. The guerrillas had weakened the last span of the bridge, turning the crossing into a deadly trap. Had Xavier, who noticed the weakened structure at the last instant, not called out, all would have fallen into the chasm. The Lyrians managed to capture the unit commander. She stood, her head raised high, and when Meve glared at her, she did not avert her eyes.
What is your name, elf?
Abayeth met a past one.
She said,
Thank you, Reynard. I know well what she said. Kiss my arse, is that truly the best you can muster?
I'd rather show you exactly what I can muster. Tell them to unbund me.
You got your opportunity. On the battlefield. Will you not tell me what they call you? Fine. It's all the same to me. I'm more interested to know how you came to be here. Who sent you?
No one. It was my decision to kill you, and thus avenge Eldain. Do you remember him? The elf whom you denied a burial? Whom you left in an open field to rot? You've elven blood on your hands. The blood of the elves of the Moulderwood.
I regret the events of the Moulderwood. I did not wish those elves' deaths. Yet they left me no choice.
What choice would you give a murderer who invaded your home?
You know I envy you. To see the world solely as black or white, it must simplify things so. Enough. I've heard all I wish to hear.
But I haven't. Did you fall on your heed, elf, eh? If you want to fight humans, go on and do it. You cannot talk sense to idiots that nae here, damn it. Mahakam is and will be neutral.
You cannot be neutral. To Dwan, you are either their foe or their dog. Mahakam has stood aside sleeping long enough. That is why we struck it in its very heart, as a call to battle. A call to brethren whom you, Elder, have kept from the world too long.
I have kept him away. I've been bloody right to do so. You want to play at war, you numpties? You want to force the Pontar to flow upstream? Gang right ahead. Good riddance, I say. Gan kill, gan die if you fancy. But God's damn it, leave us alone. Yeah, I should kill you. With my own hands. I should cut your throat, put you out of your misery. That's what you want, innit? To die? To die a stupid death? Well, I'll not grant you that. Nay, nay, I'll lock you in a tower. Sit there 3 centuries, and you just might grow a brain.
Bruva Hoog gazed after the shackled elf as she was led away. Meve expected him to continue fuming, cursing her. But the dwarf stood silent. And his old eyes, half concealed by brows bushy as a forest floor, showed not anger, but the deepest sadness. Dwarven engineers made quick work of repairing the crumbled bridge span.
Look. Mount Carbon.
Damn. And I thought Novigrad was big.
So the elves are against us. Against our elder. Treacherous hounds.
The Lyrians stepped inside Mount Carbon's bowels. Neve rode while looking upwards, admiring the intricately carved ceiling, gilded walls, monumental bas-reliefs carved from basalt. Yet this was no time to admire the sights. Bruverhoog had summoned her to speak.
I thank you for your invitation, Elder.
My invitation? Choice term, lass. You wangled your way in here. Long I've lived, but ne'er have I seen a wench so stubborn.
With all due respect, do you not feel like a pot conversing with a kettle?
Ha! True enough. Changes of mind didn't come easy to me, but they do come at times. Human wars concern me not at all. For so many they are, who could count them? A year goes by without one wanking king invading another's realm. A dog with scabies is less restless. That's why, this morning, I aimed to send you off with nothing. Mattered not what the clans were saying. Rivia, Schmivia, who gives a sheep's fart? But that was this morn, before that daft wench and her pups attacked. Nilfgaard supports the Scoia'tael, it's common knowledge. Nilfgaard uses them. Well, I'm nae worse, and I choose to use Queen Meve.
So what use would you make of me, if I might ask? You've a plan?
Aye, the kind dwarves like best. Simple, but sneaky. Like to give Nilfgaard a warning, you ken. If you're going to rile my dwarves, throw 'em into the Scoia'tael ranks. You'll regret it, aye? But I'd like to issue the warning without declaring war. All clear to you so far? So, when you march out to Mahakam, you'll find a company of our foot dwarves waiting out with the gate. Officially, volunteers, enlisting with you against my will. And you're to put them at the fore next time you face Nilfgaard. Want the Blackclads to break their teeth on our bucklers, get a taste of our axe blades. After that, dare say they'll think twice before they send more Scoia'tael into these hells.
Interesting.
I do not... Thank you, Elder. You restore my hope that I shall have my home back in the end.
Faith can move mountains, aye, but it can't do much about borders. I've watched you close, and must admit you're a plucky lass. That enough for Nilfgaard? Canna be sure.
We will see. We shall know soon.
Yeah, we got the volunteers. Yeah. Awesome.
I would like to march at once. So by your leave...
Nay, not granted. At once? What's that mean? Our laws are clear. Guests are to be sent off with a thundering feast. Even the humans.
Bruver, as was Bruver's wont, insisted. So the Queen accepted the invitation, but as was her wont, set a condition. The feast was to last but one night, and not, as was the wont of local custom, an entire week. All clans were to be represented at the feast, save one, of course, the Zigrins. For they had already learned their punishment. The entire clan was banished from Mahakam. An exception was made for one of their number, for Gabor, who was beheaded before the day was done. When the sun had retired behind the peaks, the underground city came alive with the sound of bugles, bagpipes, and horns. The dwarves emerged out into the central square and danced exuberantly, sparks kicking up from their hobnail boots. The usually crabby Elder-in-Chief Hoog proved a cordial host that evening.
Let's drink, lest our neck shafts grow cobwebs!
Suddenly, a messenger arrived. Bruver lifted his copper horn to his ear and listened with furrowed brow.
What's that? Speak up!
When she saw a sour grin on his face, Meve knew the tidings were not good. Yet she did not suspect they pertained to her directly.
Meve, you expecting anyone?
How's that?
Runner says a delegation's arrived at Carmen. Frae Lyria and Rivia. Got a Nilfgaardian escort.
How dare they? Traitors. Who leads it?
You'd best sit.
Who leads the delegation?
It's your son. Willem, I fear.
Oh, shit!
Willem.
Mahakam remains neutral as regards all your squabbles. I trust I needn't remind you. So I'll have no scrambling nor shoving, and certainly no bloodshed. Point of fact, I'd prefer it if you...
I wish to speak to him.
I'd forbid you, but, as I said, never seen a more stubborn wench. Alrighty then, Jab.
Meve spotted banners, a Lyrian eagle upon one surrounded by Nilfgaard's black rags. Her hands became fists, showing how helpless she felt. Then her son and rival, Willem, emerged from behind a row of Imperial footmen.
My. I should apologize. It seems I missed the coronation. Congratulations, my son. Who was it who placed the crown? General Epdahi?
Count Caldwell.
Ah, yes. Our elder statesman. Why have you come here, of all places? To acquire arms for Nilfgaard?
As my official mission, yes. Yet unofficially, I wish to speak with you. I trust you've had tidings from the field. Edirn turned to ash and dust. Vizimir murdered Redania in chaos. Foltest forced to strike a pact by his vassals betrayed, Henselt the same.
This limerick, will it come to a point?
Why, yes. To the same as this war. Mother, I beg you, you must see it. Nilfgaard's victory is inevitable. Surrender now, and I shall show you mercy. For later it'll be too late.
There will be no later. We shall repel them, drive them south at the points of our pikes.
This we, Mother? Who precisely do you mean? You stand alone.
I prefer to stand alone over standing with Nilfgaard, with the invader, as you do.
Mother, in declaring for the Empire, I saved the lives of thousands of our subjects.
And in so doing, our honour lost.
Folk who had their huts burned down care deeply about our honour. Is that truly your belief? When I was crowned, a fact you deride, though that makes it no less true, I swore the good of my subjects would guide me. And a war we are doomed to lose cannot in any way benefit them.
And slavery can. You know well the Blackclads put peasants in chains, like cattle.
Reprehensible, I agree, but...
And resettlement? Forced labour? Cruel laws that make death the punishment for the slightest offences? Are those benefits? Well, answer me!
I see I will not sway you, Mother. A shame, though I take comfort in the fact I tried. And now, adieu.
Oh no, I, not you, will decide when this conversation is over.
Oh, have we anything else to discuss?
Are you perhaps aware that the Nilfgaardians tried to kill me?
What? No,
Which tumbled down through no small effort of an Imperial envoy.
Never would I have agreed to such a heinous act.
I believe you.
I'm heartened that, despite all...
I believe you because I believe the Nilfgaardians wouldn't ever have asked your opinion. Think on it, son. Are you their ally or their tool? Can you ever be sure?
I am the King of Lyria and Rivia. To serve my subjects' best interests, I am prepared to make even the most painful concessions. Might I leave now? Or is there more?
Naturally. How did you know you would find me here?
I received Nilfgaardian reports to the effect that you've been seen in the pass.
Oh, roses are red and so are your cheeks, my son. As ever when you're caught in a lie. Lyria is 2 weeks' travel hence. Had you received word only once I was here, we'd have been long gone from Mahakam by the time you assembled a force and completed the march. No. You were forewarned of our intended route. It means I've a traitor in my ranks. Another one. Get out of my sight, villain. And pray we only ever face one another on neutral ground.
Maeve struggled inside not to turn and gaze once more at her son. He'd changed since they'd last faced each other, grown manlier, and he wore the crown well. The Queen returned to the banquet hall. Her advisors shot her questioning glances, curious what she had discussed with Bruver. But Maeve decided to keep the details to herself. One of them wore a Nilfgaardian lead around his neck. Until she knew who, she would have to remain vigilant.
Feasting's done, Reynard. We must consider our next move.
I've thought on it, Your Grace. We've strength enough to hit the foe, but still not the numbers to face him in open battle.
So what do you propose?
This war we cannot win alone, nor even with the dwarves at our side. But if we secure a victory, small yet symbolic, we shall show the other realms of the north all is not yet lost. Thus, I propose we attack behind the front lines, somewhere well clear of any major Imperial force.
Where would you suggest?
I'm considering Angren. To begin with, a thickly wooded marshy land, always helpful in clandestine operations. Secondly, the land strategically important, as it's the chief source of building material for Nilfgaard's fleets.
All too little, I fear. Since we require a victory that would be symbolic, we must strike where it shall hurt. And Angren...
Just recently welcomed a new regent, in the person of Count Coldwell, my third argument. Naturally, if Your Majesty wishes, I'm prepared to present alternatives to this.
No need. We march at dawn.
Maeve had toiled, cajoled, persuaded, and gained the dwarves' support. She left Mahakam strengthened, markedly. Even so, the Queen was in a foul mood. For it was clear a traitor, a viper, nested among the Lyrians. Someone who had conveyed the Queen's plans to her foe. From this moment on, Maeve would need to weigh every word she uttered, even in the presence of her closest associates.
Your Grace, we must plot our course forward. Shall we take the western passage into Angren, or...
Not now.
When then? Dawn approaches, yet we know nothing of where...
I will not repeat myself.
The Queen knew she would learn the traitor's identity in the end. If need be, she would tear the name from the throat of another turncoat, Count Caldwell. Meve drooled at the prospect of seeing Caldwell in chains, then passing him to the hangman.
Saddle the horses. I shall take the fall.
The time for diplomacy, for preparations and negotiations had gone. Meve was to attack her foe at last, and she could not wait to do so. At long last, Meve's force reached Angren's marshy woods. Ever been? No? Count yourselves lucky.
You certain we haven't lost our way?
Alas, here there is no way. We continue south, that's all.
South meaning the bottom.
Should you ever venture there, I offer you this advice. Do your utmost to make no noise. Poor soul. His comrades cried out, reached out, but alas, amidst frothing waters they heard bones cracking, the moan of metal bent and crushed.
What the bloody hell, what was that?
Rather not know, personally.
Hold your positions! Arms at the ready!
It was a glusty war. One of many the Lyrians would encounter along their path. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. At last, Meve and her force stood upon the Yaruga's bank. To find and punish the traitor Caldwell, they would have to cross the river. Yet the sole bridge nearby was in Nilfgaard's hands.
Your Majesty, some new reports require your attention.
This place looks pretty big. This is gonna be interesting. First thing we'll have to do is cross the river. Well, this place is gonna be pretty fun. Already tell.